Welcome to the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture in Spokane, Washington. This is a special tour designed for school groups. In this tour, we will explore our largest artifact, the Campbell House, which is the historic home on our museum campus in the historic Browns Addition neighborhood. The Campbell family moved into this home in 1898 when their daughter Helen was 6 years old. Helen's father, Amasa, owned a mine in the Silver Valley of Idaho, and they moved to this neighborhood at a time when Spokane was an up-and-coming new city, and this neighborhood was popular for wealthy people to build large homes. This neighborhood is close to downtown, but not in downtown, where there would have been dirty smelters and saloons that would have been unpleasant to live near. This house is divided into two sides, one for the family and one for the servants. There are even separate entrances to the house for family, servants, and guests. We will begin our tour in the main entrance to the house, where guests would enter. If you were a guest coming to visit Helen, you would likely go into this room, the library. The term living room was not yet in use, so think of the library as a gathering room, where the family would gather to recline by the fire, listen to Helen play the piano, play a game like Parcheesi, or even read a book or magazine. If you were a guest coming to visit Mrs. Campbell, you would likely go into this room, the reception room. This is a very formal room designed for short visits between wealthy women who visited on a certain day of the week. On visiting days, Mrs. Campbell would sit in here and wait for guests. When visitors arrived, they would present their calling card to the maid at the front door. The maid would then announce the guest to Mrs. Campbell. The visitor would only stay for about 15 minutes, and then another guest would arrive. All the ladies in Mrs. Campbell's circle knew that Thursday was her day to receive visitors. Only Mrs. Campbell's very closest friends called her Grace. Everyone else called her the more formal Mrs. Campbell. Let's now go downstairs to see where Mr. Campbell's guests would go. The den. This was Mr. Campbell's area. No women were allowed down here except the maid. Mr. Campbell entertained friends and business associates in this room, and often made business deals around the card table. Now we are going to pass through a door that leads to the servants' work area. Look around this room. What's going on in here? What do you see that makes you say that? The servants did laundry once a week, and the process would take them all day. Heat up the water on the stove, shave soap into the wash bin, use the agitator, rinse the clothing, hang to dry, heat the iron on the stove, iron the clothing and the bed linens. Just outside the laundry room are more areas where servants would work, including this cold storage room and the wood chute. Notice that there's a toilet here as well. It may seem like a small thing, but it made everyone's life more convenient and the work more efficient to have an indoor toilet close to the work area. From here, we will continue on the servant side of the house, back on the main level. Look around this room. What's going on in here? What do you see that makes you say that? The servants were the only people to use this kitchen. Mrs. Campbell would create a menu for the family, guests, and servants, but all other duties were the cook's responsibilities. Groceries and ice were delivered to the back door. Just outside the kitchen is the annunciator, or call box. Every room on the family side of the house has a small white button that connects to this box using an electromagnetic system. There would almost always be a servant in this area, either in the kitchen or in the servants' dining room, and they could quickly respond to the family's requests using this modern technology. Up on the second floor, there are more servant work areas, including this dumbwaiter. Dumbwaiter literally means silent waiter, and this modern convenience would have lightened the load for the servants of this house. It begins in the basement just outside the laundry room and has openings on every level of the house. It uses a pulley system to make it easy to bring clean, folded laundry from one level to the next. Now we will return to the family side of the house and see their bedrooms. Look around this room. Who do you think used this room? Mr. and Mrs. Campbell's bedroom has an attached bathroom and a sleeping porch. Look around this room. Who do you think used this room? Helen's bedroom connects to her parents' bedroom. When Mrs. Campbell was a child, girls were not allowed to play sports, but when Helen was young, girls were starting to be allowed to play sports like tennis and golf. The trophy was won by one of Helen's friends when she played in a golf tournament. Now we'll return to the main level of the house. Look around this room. What's going on in here? What do you see that makes you say that? This is the dining room, where formal dinner was set every night. Can you imagine dressing up in your fanciest clothes every night for dinner? We imagine that young Helen may not have liked that much, and it's possible she ate some dinners with the servants with whom she had a friendly relationship. Remember that we started this tour by entering the house as a guest would. Now that it's time to end our tour, there's one last thing to see, and it would have been useful for any guest leaving this house to use this device to call for their carriage. It's a telephone. This telephone has 4 lines, one of which connects to the carriage house next door. I hope you enjoyed this tour of the Campbell house. To see more and hear more stories of the Campbell family and their many staff, come visit the museum soon.